Our country stands on the threshold of fundamental change, but we still have a long road to travel. As long as apartheid is in place, we appeal to you to maintain sanctions. We salute the state of California for having such a powerful, principled stance on divestment.
The biggest inspiration for the fossil fuel divestment campaign was the South African apartheid divestment movement that took place in the 1970s and 80s, where students saw the power of their universities as investors and the power of money in influencing South Africa, and wanted to make a case with that money that the United States needed to be doing more, and that we as individuals and as institutions could take a stance on the horrible apartheid regime in South Africa.
Divest Harvard started in fall 2012. It was a room of about 10 people, and we were trying to figure out how are we going to get Harvard to divest from fossil fuels. And we decided to start off with a referendum on campus to get everyone in the college to vote on fossil fuel divestment. And we did that within 3 months of starting our campaign, and 72% of Harvard College students supported divestment. And so we went from 10 people in a room in September to a whole campus talking about divestment in December.
So divestment is one strategy for trying to bring the world's attention to the problems of a rising climate and a ever-increasing amount of carbon being emitted into the atmosphere. You know, from 1980 to 2000, the rate of increase of carbon in the world's atmosphere was 1.5% a year. And countries were getting more and more concerned and saying they are going to do more and more about it. From 2000 to 2012, the rate doubled to 3.0%.
The divestment movement does reflect the fact that I would say broadly society now understands it's real, it's bad, something has to be done. But society hasn't yet figured out what can be done or what should be done. What needs to be done is we need to create incentives for economic agents around the world to reduce their production of carbon emissions.
So while the divestment campaign has gone viral, students aren't only pushing for divestment from fossil fuels. They're actually talking about how do we transition from this dirty economy to an economy that's more responsible, has better energy sources, and has more sustainable and just communities.
Social justice, economic justice, all forms of justices are integral to the divestment campaign. Because what we're saying is that if it's wrong to wreck the planet, then it's wrong to invest in companies that are profiting from that wreckage. And for a higher education institution like Harvard that is investing in its students by educating us, it's completely counterproductive to then go and be investing in these fossil fuel companies. And these companies are destroying people's livelihoods, they're destroying communities today, and they're threatening all of our futures.
Many educational institutions have been asked to divest their endowments from fossil fuel companies. What I would recommend is different, and it's different for a couple of reasons. First of all, not all fossil fuel companies are a risk to the endowment. A natural gas company, for instance, might actually benefit from the pricing of emissions. On the other hand, stranded assets are those that we know will do poorly, will be losers when emissions are priced. So from my perspective, it's a risk issue. From those who are proposing divestment of all fossil fuels, they're trying to make a moral or an ethical argument that these are bad companies. From my perspective, the companies are acting rationally, legally. They're not bad actors. It's really more of a risk issue, an evaluation issue as far as I'm concerned. Those stranded asset valuations are too high, and that's why an endowment should eliminate them from their portfolio.
The moral case rests on the repugnance of trying to profit from a corporate activity which is against society, against the planet, against your students, against the faculty. This
is a very serious risk management issue. This is an existential threat to to the future of mankind, to the future of life on Earth. I don't care who wants to yell about it. There should be an alarm about this. And I applaud those who are raising this as an issue, who are creating noise about it and saying, look, something's wrong here. We have to do something. We have to price emissions appropriately. It is irrational. It is insane that we're creating incentives for economic agents around the world to create more pollution. The subsidies to fossil fuel production are an order of magnitude bigger than the small subsidies that we have for clean energy. This has got to change.
I have 9 grandchildren, and their lives are going to be importantly affected. I mean, if you think of them living until almost through the century, maybe beyond the century, we will either be in desperate trouble or we will have resolved this issue. So when they grow up and ask, what did your grandfather do about this? I want to be able to have my children tell them that I did something.
Look, climate risk is a tough problem, and we understand why it hasn't been addressed. It's what economists call the tragedy of the commons. It's in no one's self-interest to move first. We all have to move together. And in this global economy, we don't have a good global governance structure.
Climate change matters to me because I love my home and I love my family, and climate change threatens both of those things, and I will do absolutely anything to protect them. But this isn't something that's just unique to me. We all have people, places, ideas, things that we love, and climate change threatens all of those things. So we all have a responsibility to act to protect what we love.